You're listening to Mouth Mentality, where we talk to everyday people about everyday food. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mouth Mentality. I'm Chef Heidi Marsh today. We have Chef Janet on the show.
Hello.
Super excited to have you with us. Janet is my neighbor. She is also a chef, and we're really just going to dive in. I want to get to know a little bit more about you.
Okay.
So first of all, tell me where you're from. Where did you grow up?
So I am from Brooklyn. You know, all New Yorkers are very proud of where they're from.
Brooklyn.
I'm from Brooklyn, New York, Bed-Stuy to be exact. Born and raised. Sort of new. Well, I guess not really new to California. I've been here in December, make 9 years.
9 years in California. So from East Coast Brooklyn to West Coast LA. Wow. So that's just the two major places that you've lived.
So I've lived other places. Well, can you count college?
You can count college. College
Okay.
is important in the story.
So for my 4 years of college, I lived in Virginia the first year. I went to Virginia State University, and then I transferred to Clark Atlanta University for my last 3 years. So I lived in Atlanta for 3 years. I lived on campus when I was in Virginia, so that kind of didn't feel like I was nestled in Virginia. But my Atlanta life, I lived in apartments. I kind of was on my own, so I could say I lived in Atlanta.
You lived there for a bit. So being in Brooklyn, growing up in Brooklyn, tell me a little bit about what your relationship with food was like in the family. Who cooked? What types of meals did you eat?
Okay, so my grandmother had 9 children.
Wow.
That in and of itself requires a lot of cooking. So we always gathered around food. We would have fish fries. My grandfather was a fisherman. Not for a living, but he just enjoyed it. He had his own boats. He went with his brothers out on the water. His sons, when they got older, even some of my cousins would go, but it was only a guy's thing.
Right.
So from their fishing trips, we either have a barbecue in Brooklyn, we would go out to Long Island to his sister house, and everything was kind of centered around food. From scratch, they're scaling fish in the yard.
Wow.
I never did any of that myself.
You never scaled fish?
Well, when I was younger, no. I thought it was disgusting. It was newspaper
It is disgusting.
Scales everywhere. There would be maggots in my yard.
Oh my God.
For bait. Like my grandfather was into it. We have big turtle that he captured. I don't even know what would they do with the turtle, because we didn't eat the turtle. But anyway,
it was a pet.
There was all sorts of things. So we always gathered around food, but I didn't notice it. It was just like who my family was. Like my grandmother would cook for the kids on the block. Everyone would always gather at my house. Like my house was sort of the spot. So I guess it felt like something that was just a part of me.
Right. Right.
And so in hindsight, I would say that's where the cooking came from. But I can't say, like, as an adult, being reflective in life, initially, I never noticed it.
You never noticed it. It was just a part of how you grew up. It was a part of the tradition, a part of the way of life with your family. Mm-hmm. The fish, it brings me back to being a kid. It was a big fishing hobby in my family. My grandpa's last name is Fisher. My mom's family, really big, just always going out fishing. And I remember cutting off the heads and scaling the sunfish. And trying to make jokes about it, because I thought I was really disgusted by it. So anytime I had to do any kind of butchering, even as a young kid, I would make it fun, make jokes about it, like put the little head on the president on the newspaper.
Yeah.
You know, we were cleaning on. It was pretty gross, but
I'm still sensitive to that stuff now.
It took me a long time to break through those barriers. I wanted to be a doctor, but I became a chef, and I still had to deal with cutting up animals, cutting up animal food, and the blood and guts that go along with it. So I can definitely relate to that story. Did you have like a favorite specific memory of a meal?
My mom was known for her fried chicken wings.
Okay.
And I don't think that she did anything that was like super sophisticated. She just had a touch.
Right.
And all the kids, like I would have a 20-person sleepover, and my mother would be making crinkle cut or French fries.
Yes.
And fried chicken, and all the kids at my school knew about, like everyone knew about my mom's fried chicken. So I make a joke and say that fried chicken is a Negro delicacy. It really is like people, I guess it's kind of like looked at as like kind of a cheapy kind of meal. It's not sophisticated. It's not fancy. Mm-hmm. But I feel like most people can appreciate some good fried chicken.
Oh,
So
yes.
yeah, I remember my mom making that. And another thing she used to make was blueberry pancakes. Back then, my mom came up in a generation where they're trying to get things done a little faster. So it would be like Bisquick pancakes instead of from scratch processed like my grandma. And we would eat blueberry Bisquick pancakes, and I loved them.
Yes. Did you ever cook with your mom or your grandma?
No.
Growing up? No.
No, that's why I'm surprised at when I got in college, I realized that I was the designated cook. But I'm not really sure where I came to learn how to cook, because I don't really remember I remember being in the kitchen, but I don't remember helping much.
Right. You were there for the eating too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would open the can of cranberry sauce on Thanksgiving, or, mix the cake and get to lick the spoon.
Lick the bowl was a big thing.
Right. Scoop the cupcakes, or, decorate the Christmas cookies. Just the very simple things, but never really immersed in like recipe or learning technique with my family. So that was the same for you.
Yeah. But it's interesting because I guess you can kind of learn even like without participating. You could just be in the environment and grasp things unknowingly from seeing it so much.
Right. It just kind of seeps into you. And yeah, absolutely. And it's ironic now we're both chefs and we didn't participate. When you're growing up, you're surrounded by food. It's very much a community comfort thing for your family. Did that shift when you went off to college? Like, how did your relationship with food change as you started growing up and growing into your life?
So I was anxious to answer this question. Everyone would make fun of college kids saying like, you on a ramen noodle diet and all that kind of stuff. I thank God, I want to knock on some wood, but I guess I don't know if it's because I'm like really into food. My food did not ever suffer in any of those environments. Like, from finding like friends with apartments who may have cooked, from finding little restaurant situations. When I went to college, I was eating.
You were eating.
I gained that. Is it freshman 30?
Freshman 15 or 30 or whatever it was.
30.
Yep, the magic freshman number.
Yes, freshman 15. I definitely gained weight when I was in college. I remember like the cafeteria, they would be making waffles with all of the fixings. Yeah, I was indulgent. I had good eating in college. When I got to Atlanta, that's when I started being in the kitchen because I had my own apartment. And then my friends will always designate me to prepare the food. But I'm like one of those people, like let's say you have some turkey, some bread. I'm going to find whatever leafy green we have in the fridge. I may make a mayo with adding some garlic or something. I will always dress up the most basic things. You didn't really have to have a lot. And so I became that person within my crew, and we would party a lot in Atlanta. 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm coming home making full-on meals.
Full-on meals, creative ideas with very like the bare minimums,
yes,
right?
The bare minimum, yes.
Yep. So what was your initial career and where was the shift into what you do today?
Okay, so I was an editor. I was on the path of being a journalist. I had actually applied to Columbia School of Journalism because it was an Ivy League, the only journalism. I'm like, I totally want to be like Oprah, Diane Sawyer, Barbara Walters, like throw me somewhere in there. So that is really, because I like conversations and I like hearing stories.
Right.
So I thought
you're perfect for the show. See?
So I thought that is where I should be. So I was an editor and I got laid off. I had like a really rough year. I broke up with my boyfriend, lost my grandfather, and my job all within 30 days, and I was losing my apartment. And not because of my negligence. A former roommate just kind of stopped paying rent, and then I was kind of in a stuck
position.
Situation.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you know what? I'm not going to stress out too badly. I'm going to take the summer off. I'm going to pursue a hobby because I'm one of those people I feel like incomplete if I'm not contributing to the world in some sort of way.
Right.
Like it's fun to just run around, but I need some purpose, something to do. Right. So I was like, I'm going to cook for fun, take off for the summer. I'll look for a job in the fall, and I'll let this apartment go because this will be a great way to break ties with my friend, the apartment, the past, all that kind of stuff.
Sure, yeah, just a new beginning.
A new beginning. So I started cooking food. I gave my friend that works for the Royal Bank of Canada sandwiches. He said, we'll order sandwiches. I was like, okay, cool. Again, I'm not even trying to make a huge profit. It's like, I'm not thinking about it in that way. I made my chicken parm sandwich on a baguette, and then let me tell you, my chicken parm I made them sandwiches, and they wanted food again.
Right.
So then
of course they did.
A thing
Of
with
course.
them. It became a thing, and they would just order. So then they did a healthy lunch, facilitated by a doctor. She was like, "You can't be serving this. The guys are requesting you, and we need like healthy food." So then I started to learn what healthy food really was. I started juicing, and then I went on a weight loss journey. I've gained all the weight back, but I did keep it off for 7 years.
Okay.
Anywho.
Okay.
So I went on this whole journey.
You went on the health kick as a result of having to cook healthy food, as a
Yep.
result of just doing something that you love. So first you get them addicted to the chicken parm.
Yep.
And then you got to get them into this health kick.
So what it was is they are on Wall Street, and like you can get like this perfectly grilled chicken, but it like has no soul to it. Like it's just just food that kind of looks good, and it's like whatever, you can eat this every day or switch out another meat, kind of all taste the same.
Right.
So they were appreciating that this had a little bit of a different twist. Now I knew how to make food taste good. I didn't follow any rules because I didn't know any rules.
You were probably,
I feel like it aligned.
You were probably using fresh ingredients too,
Yes,
where like whatever they were getting was probably just pre-cooked at a factory and coming out of a bag and heated up.
Yes.
We know those quick tricks.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And
you can taste the difference.
You can feel
taste
the difference.
The difference. You can feel the difference.
Yeah.
You can feel the love.
You talk differently over food when you're enjoying it. Like
Yeah.
You even connect with the people next to you, around you, when the food is really good. Like it then becomes this memory.
Right.
Like you could, oh yes, we remember when we taste that, and we were doing this, and you kind of remember how you felt. Before you know it, I was doing a 60-person's lunch.
Wow.
Once a month, and I was like the go-to person. So now I was like full on cooking.
Yeah.
But then I was planning on looking for a job, and no one would give. I know a lot of people, the referrals, they're like, "But I heard you were cooking." Now I'm also losing weight alongside this process because I start juicing, I start exercising.
Right.
So it picked up a life of its own. I went for an interview as an editor at a magazine I wanted to work for, and during the whole interview I felt like I was acting. So I didn't get a job as an editor, and then after that summer, by January, someone that I'm cool with who's also in food was like, I feel like you should give this like more life.
Right.
Like I feel like you should pay attention to what's happening. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna make a commitment. I'm gonna try this for a couple months. If it works, then I'll go with it. I was running around the city selling lunches, friends at Bank of America Securities, friends at HBO.
Wow.
And these are like $15 lunches, but I'm having a blast.
Yeah. And how long ago was this?
11 years ago.
And you said $15 lunches, so that's expensive 11 years ago.
Probably so, but they had good jobs.
They had good jobs, and so you're probably making a good profit.
Yeah, but no, because I was buying high quality ingredients, I wasn't killing like that.
So
I was making a decent profit,
Yeah.
but I can't say that I was like spending. This meal cost me $3 and I'm charging you $15. It wasn't like that.
You weren't into the cost analysis of the thing.
No.
You were more about providing the service and quality with integrity and authenticity of the products that you're giving these guys.
Yep.
All the while not knowing, like, you're growing into becoming a chef, doing meal prep, doing drop-off catering on a small scale.
Yep.
Magnificent.
Yep. I had a friend that came in to help me because he's actually a chef, and I didn't, to some degree, didn't know what the hell I was doing. I had never made guacamole. And so I'm like, I know, it's crazy.
Right.
So I'm like, off the cuff, like we're figuring it out, and it was very fun. It was fun.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
You had some experience in New York, and you're doing the meal preps. Did you go and work at any restaurants or anything in New York?
No, so no one would hire me at a restaurant.
Right.
Because I didn't have any skills, and I'm trying not to overtell this story, but it is the story.
It's the story. We want to know the details.
I have a friend that's president of Atlantic Records, and we were having dinner at a Mexican spot on West Broadway. And he told me, oh, my friend is coming. There are about 7 of us here. His friend happened to be Jay-Z. So Jay-Z sits next to me, and he's like talking or whatever. We're just regular banter.
Just Jay-Z-ing around.
No, everyone acts. I mean, I don't really. I admire people, but I can say that's probably the single-handed person that I'm like fan of.
Okay.
So he comes in. I'm like, I know how to play my cool. I've been around a ton of people, so. We are playing it cool. Everybody's just talking. And it was very nice because most people like that don't get to have random conversation. Right. Because people are fanning out, obviously. So anyway, he sits next to me. We start talking about what people do. And I was saying I sell food and I'm excited. I sell lunches and da-da-da. He was like, that's like hand-to-hand hustling.
Yeah.
He said, so he referred to my friend Kaiser. He's like, why don't you connect her with a listening party for one of your new artists? That's how she get on. Like, she's starting, they're starting. Like, basically, they don't know what they want anyway. The chef thing will work with her there on the same level. So I'm like, thinking to myself, I can be a private chef. Like, if he said that, I'm going with it. Yeah. So put the battery in my back. I'm one of those people, like, you give me a magazine and reading it cover to cover. If I need to study something, I want to have, like, thorough knowledge. So I was trying to go to culinary school.
Okay.
And I would not have necessarily attempted to be a private chef because I didn't know I was qualified to be.
Right.
But he's like, you don't need to do any of that. You're doing it.
You're doing it. You're already doing it.
And so with that tidbit of inspiration and information, I was like, you know what? I set my sights to be a personal chef. A friend of mine that played football happened to be going to his friend's house and said, you know what? I want you to do the food. I'm not going to pay you, but I'll buy the food. I booked my first personal chef client from that encounter. And I can't say I did any footwork to get the chef.
Right.
In that sense, like I wasn't like asking people, hey, do you need a chef? But I think that
he said, I'm not gonna
it now
pay.
set my sights differently. So it's like I almost manifested the situation.
Right.
Because now I knew it was possible.
He said, I'm not going to pay you, but I'll buy the food.
Yes.
So he was paying for the food, but not the service.
Right. And I just cooked. I baked.
And you just showed up for that.
And coincidentally, I didn't fry, but I baked wings, and my baked wings are,
okay.
I get it from my mama.
You get it, yeah. Like it's I think it's molecularly in us.
Yes.
And then you brought up a point, like you manifested things. It sounds like just hearing the beginning of your story and how you shifted careers, like the universe is saying, hey, you know, this is what you're really meant to do.
Yes,
this is
the
what
way things
is going to bring you, bring your passions out of you and bring your best foot forward, right, in life. Because then it was like, oh, here, do this, meal prep this, do some healthy stuff. Oh, here's Jay-Z. Here's some A-list people that need, you know, your love. Essentially, they need your love and your food, and we want you to go for it. That's kind of what the universe is telling you, and so you're going with it.
Yep.
You're going with it. So what happened next?
And then so then Joe Button was my first personal chef client. Worked with him, I can't remember for how long. It may have been like up to a year. But then from there, people are now referring me to things. So then I have a friend over here that's referring me to a retired athlete that she knows over here. And it just kept building like that. Being from New York, you know a lot of different people, like a lot of different types of people.
Right.
And of my friends, I probably made the least amount of money. So I had close friends who hired chefs.
Right.
Like, so sometimes for some of their stuff, they'll call me on to do it. So that became a thing. And then I started to say, you know, what else do I want out of this? I was like, I want a food truck. I want to move to California, but before I do any of that, I want to go to culinary school. I want it to be a foreign school because I felt like I already have my bachelor's degree. If I'm paying for a second education, it needs to be out of this world.
Right.
Like, I don't want a basic
culinary
education.
school is expensive, and so if you want to get the best bang for your buck.
Basically.
Right.
And so I was accepted to Cordon Bleu in Paris. I couldn't afford to go. I went and visited the school and everything. So then I'm like, what the hell am I going to do? A friend of mine, Evelyn Lozada, she wanted someone to cook for her for Thanksgiving.
Okay.
They hired me. I had never baked a whole turkey. We had a party at my house to a pre-Thanksgiving to kind of get me prepared.
Turkey practice.
The turkey was bleeding a little.
Uh-oh.
But by the time I got to them, knocked it out the park.
Okay.
And so then she called me again to do her Thanksgiving. Now Christmas. This was in Arizona.
Okay.
I go to Arizona, and then I'm supposed to leave on the 26th, the day after Christmas. Evelyn's daughter, Shanice, is also my best friend, and she was like, why don't you just come to LA?
Okay.
And I was like, I already got a ticket back to New York. And I was like, you know what? My bills are kind of low. I can go to LA if I'll stay there for a month. I'll stay with her, and I'll just do some random dinner parties here and there. That will cover like 2 dinner parties. I can cover my bills at home.
Right.
And then so went to LA. I was there 5 months. I had a job within 30 days.
Wow.
And then I have not ever lived in New York again. So I didn't get to LA in the way that I thought I would get to LA. But I think
LA just came to you. It was like, wow,
yeah.
yeah, the universe is really on your side.
And I needed to learn knife skills because I was cooking for the 60 people. I didn't know how to use a knife. Like, I didn't know how to do uniform cuts of onions or none of that stuff. So then I got a job at Wolfgang Catering.
Okay.
That's where I learned how to use my knife. And then that's where I got, like, some technical skills, and I could say, like, after that I felt like, yeah, I'm a chef.
You got some on-the-job training.
Yes.
You got to hang out with some chefs and just pick it up. I
thank God that I got along. I'm a pretty solid person, so I don't think people play with me too much.
Right.
But if I didn't go in with this personality, I don't think I would have survived it because it was brutal.
Right.
I was like, so nobody talks to me like that.
This was your first experience being in a restaurant catering professional chef situation, yes. Right? So a lot of probably white dudes with beards, I'm guessing. That was my experience.
Yes, that is exactly.
Not a lot of women. Mm-mm. Not a lot of people that look like us or
definitely
talk like us or
black
act.
Women.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. And I didn't know the lingo. Behind and yes, chef and all that. I was like, why does this feel like the military? I need you to make this a brunoise. I need you to chefenade this. Yes. And you're like, what language are you speaking? And they'll be like, I'll be stemming collard greens and they're like, mommy, you're going to be there all day doing that shit like that. I'm like, but I had one of the chefs that led the floor was so great. Like, he kind of helped me get along. Like, all right, this is how you do it. They basically gave you dummy work.
Okay.
This is how you do it, so you won't be here doing these boxes all day.
Right.
Oh, thanks. My cutting skills, I would cut so slowly, but by the time I left there, I was like, all right, I'm doing pretty decently. I stayed there for 1.5 years. And the interesting thing while being there, because again, a lot of white men, they never understood how I got my outside jobs because they would be stunned because I would come to them sometimes if I needed help.
Right.
And they would be like, how
did you
hook
this?
These jobs? And I was like, I had the network before I had this as a profession.
Right.
So I just have things that's kind of coming to me in a natural cycle almost. Right.
So. And the vibe I get from you is like you're a people person, right?
I love
you
people.
Don't get that vibe a lot from professional chefs. In chef settings, they're grinding 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. A lot of times they don't have people skills. Some of that stuff you see on TV is true.
Yeah.
They don't know how to think before they act or speak. Where you come from an environment of editing from out of college and just networking and people. And so that kind of energy that you put out into the universe is going to attract more people into your life. And so you could be like the best 5-star chef in the world, but if you don't know how to network and be available in your life, in the universe, and interact with people on just like on a chill scale, you're not going to generate really good private parties and things like that, I think. So you have that in your right pocket.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I became aware of, I was like, oh, people just want me in their house. I remember I went on a vacation. It was away for a wedding. And an actress that was there was trying to figure out, how can I just keep you around? I don't think I was a chef at this point. No, I wasn't a chef at this point. She was like, it's just something about your energy that I'm just trying to figure out. What could you do for me so that we can roll together in a productive kind of way? And I think that that's actually my gift more than me actually cooking, because through food I make that same connection with people.
Right.
And I've had other clients who say, I just kind of want you in my kitchen.
Right.
So I've been
because the personality and the energy shines through above all things, but there's this interesting thing that happens, I think, for me too, as a creator of food, is if I'm in a really good space, which I try to set myself up every day to be in a good mood, to be in a good space, to bring good energy into the thing that I'm creating, that I'm making. And it could be the most simplest thing, as a grilled cheese fucking sandwich, right?
Yeah.
It could be the most simplest thing as a grilled cheese sandwich, and the energy and the love and the focus and the availability that I have and the frequency, right? We talk about frequency and vibration, goes into making this thing. And people approach me and they come to eat it, and you talk to them and you look at them and you ask them about themselves, and that's the whole package. And I think you have, just by knowing you, like we walk our dogs together, guys, like just by knowing you and like how you present yourself and how you talk and how you walk, like you have that energy. And I could imagine, I haven't tried any of your food, but I can imagine and I believe that we transfer that on a molecular level into the things that we make. And that's like a beautiful gift that we can give to someone. And it's the most intimate thing. They put that in their mouths and they digest it, and it becomes a part of their molecular makeup as well. Right? And I think that's the key to being an ultimate chef.
Yes.
You know?
Well, I always say, even if I'm not in my greatest mood, once I get to cooking, there's an ease that comes over me, and I can't cook in a bad mood.
Right.
So if you have a chef that's just like angry, not upset because things aren't going right, but like just bad energy,
bitter,
I'm not eating from that person.
Right. You don't want that in your body.
I don't want that transfer.
Typically, if I'm just like overwhelmed, stressed out, frustrated, burnt out, or whatever, my food just doesn't turn out that great, and I know it, and I see it, and I'm not proud of it, and so I do have to get mindful and set myself in a space, no matter what is going on in my personal life and in any part of my professional life. It's just like I'm setting up my station, I'm getting ready to prepare. I got to set that shit aside because I know, what the result's going to look like if I don't. Yeah,
and even if other people aren't as aware, it's just something within you. Like I think that being a chef is similar to kind of being an athlete, because like every game you're getting judged on.
Right.
It's like, did you win today? And for being a chef, it's like you come out with victories, you come out with losses, and the victories feel really good. The losses are really low, and there's this adrenaline that comes with cooking. I'm also not used to being judged on everything. Excuse me.
Nope, we can take a break.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
I'm also not used to being judged on everything. Well, I guess I should be used to it now.
Right.
But like as an editor, it's like my overall work, my overall productivity. As a chef, I can have a really good dinner and a really shitty breakfast that I present to someone. And it's like, so you have partly a good day and partly a bad day. Right. It's not like I like dinner, so it didn't matter that I didn't like breakfast. Like, it matters.
It all matters. And I think, too, like, if you present something to somebody or your clients and it's like not your best work, like, it's not your best work, but the people are like, oh, wow, this is so great. They can't stop talking about it, enjoying it, loving it, praising you, which is so good for our chef egos, by the way. But like, you're like, I could do better, right? You have those moments?
I definitely have those moments. And so when I say, like, at work now, I'm a private chef. And so at work, sometimes I'll be like, oh, today was a good day. I went in, and I may get feedback like, you always do great. And I'm sitting here like, no, earlier this week was not good.
You didn't see the...
I don't feel like that all the time.
Right.
But when I do have something good, I do love it. I have had to separate receiving compliments, because the praise and the non-praise have the same amount of noise. So if I get really high from a praise, I can get really low from a non-praise.
Right.
And so not that I don't receive like a compliment, not that it doesn't feel good, but I don't overly internalize it. And in the beginning I did.
Right. It doesn't like fluff you up, fluff up your feathers and make you feel too big.
No.
Because like you said, the other side of the coin is like the frustration of criticism can really cut you deep.
And I would take it personal as a private chef, like you doing things. You may think that this pot roast or whatever it is that you made is gonna be like delicious. You may come to work and realize, damn, nobody really ate this. And it may just be everybody was out and about and didn't even taste it.
Yeah.
But I personalize it. Dang, I guess this wasn't. And so I'm dumping things and I'm taking on that. And I was like, you know what? I got to pull myself back. This is not that personal.
Right.
I am putting my best foot forward. So I'm grateful for the thanks and like, oh, this was really good. But sometimes I may not hit the mark. And that is okay too. So I've been creating a bit more balance within that space.
That's good. And maybe you hit the mark, but like you said, people are out and about, or they, got too busy to eat, right? We know all too well about like being too busy to eat feels like, looks like.
We go long periods of time without eating.
Let's touch on that. So Do you feel like there was a shift in your eating when you became a chef?
In the beginning, I took such good care of myself. Like I was over the top. So my first year, when I got on my health kick, I juiced every day, all day up until 4 p.m. Had a snack, a healthy dinner, and a very healthy dessert. So it could have been seared apples with a little granola.
Oh, wow.
I would give myself a little treat, but the treat would be within balance. Now, I was coming from a place where I was eating whatever I wanted before then.
Right.
So
the editor's
start
life.
different. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And then, like, coincidentally, for one of my editor jobs, I worked for Nation's Restaurant News. So we ate everywhere, top restaurants, SDK opening. Here goes, just go there and ball out.
Wow.
I also had that part of it. When I moved to LA, it was like mornings at yoga, Santa Monica Steps. Like I had freedom of schedule, living my life. I probably didn't appreciate it as much as I should have.
Right.
Because then I wanted some, a bit of stability. As I had jobs all over the place, contractor with this person, on a private jet with this person for a month or whatever the amount of time it's going to be, then going back to do it. Like my life was kind of all over the place, and I wanted to like know what was happening and when. So I wanted a private chef job. And if I'm being 100% honest, this is the first time that I feel like I haven't been able to find balance in taking care of myself.
But you have a balanced schedule, right? Isn't that a trip?
And I was like, I don't think I appreciated the freedom of my schedule in a way that I should have. Now with the balanced schedule, I know like the responsibility. I have a responsibility to a group of people. Like, I don't want to say all the time, but this is like my main focus.
Right.
And somewhere within that mix, I lost the things that worked for me. I wasn't able to start my mornings anymore with workouts because I'm showing up, I had to be to work at 7 a.m. And slowly but surely, like those afternoon workouts lessened. And
it's hard to work out.
So now I am working on, like, I have a health coach, I have a trainer, I've gained all the weight that I lost back. And I'm trying to get back to that. Mm-hmm. And it has been challenging.
And so what I'm hearing is, so with the eating part, because you haven't really talked about the food part, you don't eat.
Before I ate, I didn't eat certain things. I was strict about it. I didn't feel like I was
time
on
of day,
a diet.
All of that.
It was a lifestyle. I would do 10-day juicing cleanses all the time, like several times a year. Like I was on it. And I would cook for myself. I ordered a lot less food. And this wasn't necessarily about budget or anything. It was just that I made time for myself. And I really do enjoy cooking for myself and doing those kind of things. And so my current job, I prayed for it to a point where, like you want to do a good job.
Yeah.
And I think the first year and a half, I was really consumed with that. And within that process, I got detached from the things that made my life go well initially, and just kind of so then I got into a flow of just like, I go to yoga studio every now and then. I'm going to infrared sauna twice in a year. And before I was like all about wellness. I went on a 31-day yoga retreat in Bali.
Wow.
So I was like, before it was like all about my wellness, plus I cook food for other people. Then it became, I cook food for other people. I find my wellness like kind of when I can.
Right.
So I'm getting that back though.
I can completely relate. I mean, I went from, just grinding, in restaurants for decades in the Twin Cities.
And that's a grind.
And, so I was either not eating or binge eating and binge drinking, to where I just like really didn't recognize myself. Yo, chef, you got to sit down and eat your lunch.
So that's something that people think that you eat all day because you're cooking.
Right.
And so one of my biggest issues with my weight gain is that I like to be able to sit down and enjoy my meal.
Yeah.
It's actually not healthy to be like up and just through your meal. Like it
running
doesn't
around.
Serve your body properly. So I'll have breakfast in the morning, but most of the time I'm not eating again until I'm leaving work. And what started to happen was I would have this crash within my body that at the end of every day I will feel like I'm at the very edge.
Right.
But then it'll be like, but I worked at 8 and I can take a break at any point that I want.
Right.
But I have worked an 8-hour day with no break, and I'm anxious to get off my feet. So it's like sometimes you just want to get it done and then really designate that time to yourself to eat. I'm like, if I do take this break, now we're talking about it just changes the process of your execution. And for me, sometimes it can be a little overwhelming that way.
Right.
Because it's like, damn, I've been standing in this spot for how many hours?
Yeah.
Yes, I want a break. But then if I take a break, it's...
You gotta like schedule it into your prep time and into your workflow throughout the day. And don't forget to go outside and see the sunshine. And, you know, it's like, you have to literally look at it from the eyes of a chef and say, okay, from this time to this time, I'm going to prep. This time to this time, I'm going to eat lunch. This time to this time, I'm going to take a walk. You know, like this is what I've kind of learned over time to come out of eating as a chef from a place of mindfulness is like, okay, I got to practice what I preach. I'm cooking healthy meals. I want my athletes to be healthy. I want my office people to be healthy. They're coming at me with like their goals and wishes for themselves, and I'm supporting them. But where am I supporting myself?
Yes.
So that I can live this authentic life of like mindfulness and stability. So I'm just like turning out good product and turning out good things. So I'm in the best place to set myself up for those energies. So we're kind of going back to that. You know, how do we internalize this stuff that we're putting out there to our clients and,
right.
you know, and taking care of ourselves. So in the long term, we don't get burned out, you know.
I remember I was in Hawaii and it was hard to explain to people because from the outside looking in, I can sometimes appear like I'm living this like life. And my life is great. I am blessed. I am in my dream job. But at the same time, I am reaching, like I'm having struggles on levels that I've not ever had in my life.
Right.
So it's like, God, I prayed for this. Is this like you making sure I really want it? Like what's going on here? So when I was in Hawaii, I couldn't sleep for 2 weeks. I was like, what is wrong with me? And I'm like expressing myself to my friends. My friends are good. They're like, you're stuck in Hawaii for 2.5 months. We don't really feel sorry for you.
Right.
And so no one was really able to relate to like, okay, you're in paradise and can't sleep. Like, what do you want me to say to you? And so I went to the hospital. The doctor told me you need melatonin and
magnesium?
and a therapist.
Oh, a therapist. A therapist.
So I go to my boss's acupuncturist, and she says, do you want me to give you the truth? She was like, you need a vacation.
Huh.
I was like, oh. And so my work schedule got adjusted so that I could have some days off so that I can work less hours. She was like, you're burnt out. She's
Right.
like, on a scale from 1 to 10, you're at a 7.
You're
not
on the edge.
sleeping, I started to not be able to see. Like I could not, like literally losing my sight, and that scared me. So anywho, started going to the acupuncturist regularly, and she helped get me back on track. My first day of sleeping 2 3-hour increments straight, I've never felt better in my life.
Wow.
But I hadn't ever really dealt with not being able to sleep. So that was pretty stressful. But then I get the burnout. So that crash that I'm feeling at the end of work because I waited that long to eat, she's like, you can't do that. Yeah. Like you're working on it on an empty tank, and are you going outside to like catch some sun? And I'm like, when I'm leaving work, I'm walking to my car, and I'm like, I'm tired. And she's like, that's not acceptable. Right. Because we were talking about igniting our passions. Yes. And how do we not feel burnt out and at the end of the day? What makes us feel fired up? So then I checked you out. And I was like, wait a minute, she's got a whole pancake thing going on that I had no idea about. And, and then you were just posting, I think this morning, about the ingredient list, right? And if I was to go into, so I have pancakes, I should go grab them. Hold on. Let's do it. Watch this. Stay right here. Let's do a side by. Listen, I stand by them. Do we get the protein ones or the originals? You could do both. A lot of people have been asking me for a protein pancake. It's going to come. So my wife is obsessed with pancakes. She's always asking for the pancake.
You guys need to get together next and make the pancake.
Oh, yeah. So the other day I was at the grocery store with a friend of mine, and I just grabbed something. I grabbed a complete pancake. From Pearl Mining Company. Sorry, guys, whoever you are.
That's the old Angel Mama.
This is the old. So they took her off. They took her off the cover, right?
Because this is a very conscious world at this point. So that image was controversial.
You're either inclusive or you're exclusive or you're, conclusive. So she's like, what did you just get those for you? Because my wife won't do the extra protein. She doesn't need it. I need the extra protein to an extent, but she doesn't need it. She doesn't want to get ripped, like that. And I'm looking for the ingredients. I got them in Spanish here, but oh wow. The
list is already too long.
The list is already too long. You can't. There's corn syrup, solids, lactic acid, sodium caseinate, mono and diglycerides, and potassium phosphate, and preserving the freshness, and aluminum phosphate. So you have an aluminum-free baking phosphate.
Yep, my gluten-free flour, organic cane sugar, Madagascar vanilla, aluminum-free baking powder, sea salt.
Sea salt. Yeah.
Really simple. And the coconut banana has organic flour, organic coconut, organic cane sugar, Madagascar vanilla, organic milk, butter, aluminum-free baking powder, sea salt. So it's like nothing extra. Nothing that doesn't make up the pancake is in the pancake.
Right. I don't need all this extra stuff. And I think you were talking about the protein, and they're just using a whey protein isolate, but you could probably use like a 5-ingredient plant-based, like partner up with somebody and be like, hey.
So I have one that I like.
Okay.
And I haven't said anything about it because I would like to foster the relationship, but that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, instead of just putting pea powder, what if I actually used a protein powder and make that part of the flavor of the pancake?
Right.
And the protein powder that I use now would be like an eligible contender given the taste of it and how clean it is.
Given the taste and the ingredient list, right? Yeah, and you can partner up and then do something really cool with that. Yeah. Amazing.
So people can rationalize carbs if protein is alongside of it, I feel like.
Oh, absolutely. And I feel like we already know, like it's been proven, you need carbs to process your protein, people. So if you're just living on protein alone, like you're wasting most of it. You're not absorbing any of those protein molecules and complex proteins like you should, unless they're eating your pancakes on the side, guys. That's why I always serve my pancakes with bacon. And a side of scrambled eggs. That's just truth,
Classic.
So everybody always asks, what's your favorite thing to cook, right, as chefs? And I don't know if that gets like to be an old question for you. Tell me a little bit about like what's your favorite thing to eat?
Favorite thing to eat. Okay, you threw me off.
Got you.
So I like things that remind me of home, and breakfast happens to be one of my happy categories. I love pancakes because I always feel comforted by pancakes, which this is why it's the first product that I'm launching I've launched because of my obsession with pancakes. It just reminds me of home and warmth. But in the same breath, it's something really special about oatmeal too. With like some vanilla, ghee, maple syrup, a little salt. That also gives me like this, like if I'm having a day, I can sit down with a bowl of oatmeal and like feel a little comfort within it. I don't eat beef often, but one of the things that I love, soy braised short ribs. Oh
okay. That's one of my favorite things to cook, just so
my
everybody knows.
Yes.
So maybe next time I make a batch of those, I'll have to bring you some.
I'll accept.
Okay. All right. Again, I'd like to thank you, Chef Jenna, for being on the show.
Thank you.
And for bringing your product, Simply PUTT Pancakes. And this has been another episode of Mouth Mentality. I am Chef Heidi Marsh, and I am so happy to talk to everyday people about everyday food.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Mouth Mentality. Catch us when we dish out the next story.